All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopefully elect. Coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. I want to start out the book of Judith, chapter 16, verse 17. The scriptures say, "Woe to the nations that rise up against my kindred. The Lord Almighty will take vengeance of them in the day of judgment, and putting fire and worms in their flesh, and they shall feel them and weep forever." Now, this is Judith speaking. All right, now this is after the victory of the heathen. Now, who Judith is speaking of is the Assyrians. Okay, now she just chopped off the head of the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, of King Nebuchadnezzar, right? Which his name was Holofernes, right? When you go into the history and the story of this, where Judith was so beautiful, where her countenance, she used her countenance and her sweet words to destroy this army that was about to rise up against us. Now, with me making a mention of that, let's go back real quick. Let's go to the book. We're going to go to chapter 2. All right. Now, when you go to chapter 2, we're going to read verse 3. It says, "Then they decreed to destroy all the flesh that did not obey the commandment of his mouth," talking about King Nebuchadnezzar. "And when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, called Holofernes, the chief captain of his army, which was next unto him, and said unto him, Thus saith the great king, the Lord of the whole earth, Behold, thou shalt go forth from my presence, and take with thee men that trust in their own strength, of footmen 120,000, and the number of horses with their riders 12,000. And thou shalt go against all the west country, because they disobeyed my commandment." All right, so when you start going into the story, Yahweh, our Heavenly Father Yahweh, he used Judith, right? Judith of our nation to what? To destroy this captain, this chief captain of King Nebuchadnezzar. All right, and ultimately to what? To put this people, this army, to a spoil, to shame, right? And that's what took place. Now, that was just brief what happened. You can read this beautiful story yourself. Going back to this, verse 17, this is the point. It says, "Woe to the nations that rise up against my kindred." All right, this is what Judith is saying. "Woe to the nations that rise up against my kindred. The Lord Almighty will take vengeance on them in the day of judgment, and putting fire and worms in their flesh, and they shall feel them and weep forever." And the stance on these nations have never changed, right? The stance of these nations with the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahushai, this stance has never changed. Now, when we go to the book of Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 1, it says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all the things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to the slaughter." And this is what's about to happen to you nations, right? You nations are set to be what? Set to be destroyed. See, you nations right now are being what? You're all being gathered up in the Middle East to be ultimately destroyed, desolated, as the scriptures say, the Lord has a controversy with the nations. For who? For Zion, his people, because you came against his inheritance. As Judith said, you came against what? Her kindred. And her kindred were who? The Israelites. Right? Verse 3 says, their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood, and all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off the vine, and as a falling from the fig tree. Right? Now this is talking about what? A lot of bodies everywhere, because this is going to take place. It's going to be a lot of people slain. And on top of that, right, when it's talking about the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, what is this talking about? Well, this is speaking of when the nuclear destruction take place, and the mushroom cloud is going to appear when these ICBM missiles hit. That's how the heavens is going to roll as a scroll. You ever see look up a missile test, and when a bomb or a missile hits somewhere, look at the after effect of what takes place. Well, smoke rolls up as a mushroom cloud, right? Verse 5, it says, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Now, even though Israel, we have a lot of enemies. Right, a lot. You can read the book of Psalms chapter 83 for that, to see all the enemies that we have. Right? But enemy number one is who? Esau, Edom. This is enemy number one, and this is the enemy who we are currently being oppressed under right now as we speak. So what does it say? For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon who? Upon Idumea. Right? Idumea is a Greek way of saying Edom. Right? Edom, Esau, which that is the so-called white man today. This is the person who governs the world in wickedness today. Okay? Through the blessing of his sword, through his deception and witchcraft. This is who this is speaking of, this Idumean. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness and with the blood of lambs and goats and with the fat of kidneys of rams. And the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And these are all sacrificial animals that the Lord is speaking of, right? These are all sacrificial animals. And you can equate America, Babylon, and Great as being what? Being Basra today. Babylon, Basra, the land of the Chaldeans, and we can continue to go on. Nineveh, spiritually what? Sodom and Egypt, right? And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made with fatness. For it is what? For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, in the year of the recompenses, for the controversy of who? Of Zion. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become a burning pitch, and it shall be not quenched night nor day, and the smoke thereof shall go up forever. From generation to generation it shall lie waste, none shall pass through it forever and ever. And what place is this talking about? This is talking about America, Babylon, the Great, right? That great city. This is what it's speaking of. Why? Because this place is going to be no longer inhabited by people, but it's going to be inhabited by who? By what? Verse 11, the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, the owl also, and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles, and the fortresses thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons, and of a court for owls. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow, and the screeching owl also shall rest there and find herself a place of rest. So It's letting you know that this place is only going to be inhabited by what? Different fowls of the air, different beasts. Now, when I read this, I think of the movie I Am Legend, all right? When you got tumbleweeds rolling around, grass growing everywhere, vines all on the side of buildings. That's how it's going to be, all right? Because this place ain't going to be, a maintenance anymore. It ain't going to be none of that. This place is going to be a complete wasteland, right? What does the scripture say? The elements shall burn with fervent heat, Things of this place is going to be destroyed, all right? And it's going to be made a new place for what? Desert-like creatures. That's what it's going to be made for. You see? So I just thought I'd, touch on that quick through the Spirit, I just thought I'd touch on this just quick through the Spirit, Lord willing, I hope it's edifying. So next time I want to say, Shalom.